The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base as Sergeant Mike Thompson walked toward the stables. His boots crunched on the gravel path, and the familiar sounds of horses nickering softly filled the air. Today was different from all the other days he had spent here. Today he would meet the horse that would change his life forever. Commander Hayes led him to the third stall on the right. Inside stood a magnificent bay stallion, his coat gleaming like polished copper in the morning light. The horse's intelligent dark eyes watched Mike with curiosity, his ears pricked forward with interest. "This is Thunder," Commander Hayes said, patting the horse's strong neck. "He's been waiting for the right partner. We think that might be you, Thompson." Mike approached slowly, extending his hand for Thunder to smell. The horse's soft muzzle touched his palm gently, warm breath tickling his fingers. In that moment, something magical happened. It was as if they recognized each other, two souls meant to work together. "Hello there, boy," Mike whispered, his voice barely audible above the morning breeze. Thunder's ears flicked toward him, and the horse stepped closer, pressing his forehead against Mike's chest. It was a gesture of trust, of acceptance. Over the next few weeks, Mike and Thunder spent every possible moment together. Mike learned that Thunder loved carrots and had a playful streak that made him nudge Mike's shoulder whenever he wanted attention. The horse was incredibly smart, picking up commands faster than any animal Mike had ever worked with. During their training sessions, Thunder seemed to anticipate Mike's every move. When Mike shifted his weight slightly to the left, Thunder would turn left. When Mike needed to move quickly, Thunder was already in motion before the command left Mike's lips. Other soldiers noticed their special connection and often stopped to watch them practice. "I've never seen anything like it," said Corporal Davis one afternoon, as he watched Mike and Thunder navigate a complex obstacle course. "It's like they can read each other's minds." Mike felt the same way. When he was with Thunder, the stress of military life seemed to fade away. The horse became his confidant, listening patiently as Mike talked about his worries, his hopes, and his dreams. Thunder never judged, never interrupted, just stood quietly and offered his steady presence. Their training intensified as they prepared for their first mission together. Mike learned to care for every aspect of Thunder's needs. Brushed the horse's coat until it shone, checked his hooves for stones, and made sure his feed was always fresh. Thunder seemed to appreciate the attention, often nuzzling Mike's shoulder as a way of saying thank you. One evening, as Mike was cleaning Thunder's stall, the horse did something unexpected. He gently grabbed Mike's sleeve with his teeth and pulled him closer, then rested his large head on Mike's shoulder. Mike stood perfectly still, overwhelmed by the trust and affection the animal was showing him. "We're going to be okay, aren't we, boy?" Mike said softly, stroking Thunder's neck. The horse nickered quietly, as if he understood every word. As their partnership grew stronger, Mike began to realize that Thunder was more than just a military horse. He was becoming a friend, a companion who would stand by his side no matter what challenges lay ahead. The bond they were forming was deeper than anything Mike had expected when he first walked into that stable. Little did Mike know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would test their friendship, challenge their courage, and ultimately create memories that would last a lifetime. Thunder stamped his foot softly and looked at Mike with those wise, dark eyes, as if he too understood that their real adventure was just beginning. 3 months after their first meeting, Mike and Thunder received their deployment orders. They would be heading to Afghanistan as part of a cavalry unit tasked with patrolling remote mountain regions where vehicles couldn't reach. Mike's heart raced with both excitement and nervousness as he read the mission details. The night before they left, Mike spent extra time with Thunder in the stable. He had packed everything they would need, double-checking each piece of equipment. Thunder seemed to sense the importance of what was coming, standing more alertly than usual, his ears constantly moving as he listened to every sound. "Tomorrow's the big day, buddy," Mike said, offering Thunder his favorite treat, a crisp red apple. The horse crunched it gratefully, juice dripping from his chin. "We've trained for this. We're ready." The flight to Afghanistan was long and difficult. Thunder traveled in a specially designed compartment, and Mike checked on him every chance he got. The horse handled the journey better than expected, though Mike could see the stress in his eyes. When they finally landed and Thunder felt solid ground under his hooves again, he seemed relieved. Their first base was a dusty outpost surrounded by towering mountains. The air was thin and dry, very different from the lush training grounds back home. Thunder needed time to adjust to the altitude and climate, but he adapted quickly, just as Mike knew he would. Their first patrol came sooner than expected. Intelligence reports suggested suspicious activity in a valley about 15 miles from their base. Mike saddled Thunder carefully, making sure every strap was secure. The horse stood patiently, but Mike could feel the tension in his muscles. Thunder knew this wasn't just another training exercise. The patrol team consisted of 6 soldiers on horseback, with Mike and Thunder taking point position. As they rode through rocky terrain and narrow mountain passes, Thunder's sure footing kept them safe on treacherous paths that would have been impossible for vehicles to navigate. Hours into their mission, Thunder suddenly stopped and raised his head high, nostrils flaring, his ears swiveled forward, focused on something Mike couldn't see or hear. The horse's body went rigid with attention. "What is it, boy?" Mike whispered, trusting Thunder's superior senses completely. Thunder took 2 careful steps forward, then stopped again. His behavior was telling Mike something important, and Mike had learned to listen. He held up his hand to signal the other riders to stop, then dismounted quietly to investigate. Moving ahead on foot, Mike discovered what Thunder had detected. Fresh tire tracks hidden behind a cluster of rocks, evidence of recent vehicle activity in an area that was supposed to be empty. Thunder's sharp senses had potentially saved the entire patrol from walking into an ambush. Mike quickly radioed their findings back to base, while Thunder stood guard, his eyes constantly scanning the surrounding hills. The horse remained perfectly. Still understanding the need for silence and caution, the mission was declared a success. They had gathered valuable intelligence without encountering enemy forces, thanks largely to Thunder's warning. As they rode back to base, Mike patted his partner's neck proudly. "Good work today, Thunder," he said. "You kept us all safe." That night, as Mike brushed Thunder's coat and checked him for injuries, he realized their partnership had reached a new level. In a real combat situation, they had worked together flawlessly. Thunder had proven he wasn't just a well-trained horse, but a true battle companion who could be trusted with their lives. Other soldiers began to take notice of Thunder's exceptional abilities. Word spread through the base about the horse, who could sense danger before humans could detect it. But Mike knew Thunder's greatest gift wasn't his sharp senses or his strength. It was the unbreakable trust they had built together, a bond that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead in this dangerous, beautiful, and unforgiving land. As months passed, Mike and Thunder became legends at their outpost. They had completed over 30 successful missions together, each one strengthening their incredible partnership. Thunder had saved lives multiple times with his ability to sense danger, and Mike had learned to trust his horse's instincts completely. Their most challenging mission came during the harsh winter months. Intelligence reports indicated a lost patrol in the high mountains, and rescue teams on foot couldn't reach them due to heavy snow and avalanche risks. The only way to get there was on horseback, following treacherous mountain trails. Mike volunteered immediately, knowing that Thunder was one of the few horses capable of making such a dangerous journey. As they prepared for the mission, Thunder seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. He stood perfectly still as Mike checked and rechecked every piece of equipment. The rescue team consisted of 4 riders, but it was clear that Mike and Thunder would need to lead the way. The mountain paths were icy and narrow, with deadly drops on one side and steep rock walls on the other. One wrong step could mean disaster. Thunder moved with incredible care, testing each step before putting his full weight down. Formed white clouds in the frigid air, and ice crystals formed on his whiskers, but he never faltered. Mike could feel the horse's concentration through the reins, sensing how Thunder calculated every movement. Halfway up the mountain, they encountered their first real obstacle. A section of trail had been washed out by recent storms, leaving a gap of about 8 feet across a ravine. The other horses balked at the sight, but Thunder approached the edge and studied the jump. "Carefully, what do you think, boy?" Mike asked quietly. "Can we make it?" Thunder pawed the ground once, his way of saying he was ready. Mike trusted his partner completely. He gave Thunder his head and the horse backed up several steps to get a running start. With powerful hindquarters driving him forward, Thunder launched himself across the gap, landing safely on the other side with room to spare. The other riders cheered, but Mike just patted Thunder's neck proudly. His horse had once again proven that their bond could overcome any obstacle. They found the lost patrol 3 hours later, trapped in a cave by an avalanche. The 6 soldiers were suffering from exposure and dehydration, but they were alive. Thunder stood guard patiently while the rescue team worked to free the trapped men and provide medical aid. The journey back down the mountain was even more dangerous, as they now carried injured soldiers and moved more slowly. Thunder seemed to understand the precious cargo they were protecting. He picked his way down the icy trails with extraordinary care, never once slipping or stumbling. When they finally reached base camp, the rescued soldiers were rushed to the medical tent. One of them, a young private named Jackson, stopped to thank Mike before being taken for treatment. "That horse of yours," Jackson said weakly, "he's something special. We heard him coming long before we saw you. His hoofbeats gave us hope when we thought no one would find us." That night, Mike spent extra time caring for Thunder. The horse had pushed himself to his limits during the rescue mission, and Mike wanted to make sure he was okay. As he brushed Thunder's coat, he noticed the horse's breathing was slightly labored. "You gave everything you had today, didn't you?" "Boy," Mike said softly. Thunder turned his head and nuzzled Mike's shoulder, his usual way of showing affection. But Mike noticed the gesture seemed weaker than usual. A small worry began to form in the back of his mind, but he pushed it away. Thunder was strong and resilient. He had always bounced back from difficult missions before. Over the next few days, Thunder seemed to recover his strength, and they returned to their regular patrol schedule. But Mike began to notice small changes in his partner. Thunder was still brave and alert, but he moved a little more slowly than before, seemed to tire more easily after long rides. Mike mentioned his concerns to the base veterinarian, who examined Thunder thoroughly. The vet found nothing obviously wrong, but agreed to keep a close eye on the horse's condition. Thunder continued to serve faithfully, never complaining, never refusing a mission. But deep down, Mike began to worry that their time together might be more limited than he had ever imagined. As their second year of deployment progressed, Mike could no longer ignore the changes in Thunder. His beloved horse still performed his duties with dedication, but the signs were becoming more obvious. Thunder's once lustrous coat had lost some of its shine, and he needed longer rest periods between missions. The base veterinarian, Dr. Sarah Collins, had been monitoring Thunder's condition closely. She was a kind woman who genuinely cared about the military horses under her care. One morning, she asked Mike to bring Thunder in for a more comprehensive examination. "I want to run some additional tests," Dr. Collins explained as she listened to Thunder's heart and breathing. "His vital signs are still within normal range, but I'm seeing some changes that concern me." Mike held Thunder's lead rope while the vet drew blood samples and performed various tests. Thunder stood patiently through it all, occasionally turning his head to look at Mike as if to say, "I'm okay, don't worry." The results came back 3 days later. Dr. Collins called Mike into her office, and he knew from her expression that the news wasn't good. "Mike, I need you to sit down," she said gently. Thunder's tests show signs of a progressive respiratory condition. It's not uncommon in older military horses who have served in dusty, harsh environments for extended periods. Mike felt his world shift. What does that mean exactly? It means Thunder's lungs are showing wear from all the dust and environmental stress he's endured. He's not sick, but his breathing capacity is gradually declining. He can still serve, but we need to be very careful about the missions we assign him to. Mike left the veterinary office in a daze. Thunder was waiting for him in the corral, and when the horse saw him coming, he trotted over to the fence with that familiar gleam in his eyes. Looking at Thunder now, Mike tried to see the signs Dr. Collins had mentioned, but all he saw was his faithful partner, ready for whatever adventure they would share next. Their next few missions were shorter patrols in lower terrain. Mike noticed that Thunder seemed grateful for the easier assignments, though the proud horse would never show weakness. During their rides, Mike found himself paying closer attention to Thunder's breathing, listening for any signs of distress. One afternoon, while grooming Thunder after a routine patrol, Mike made a decision, began talking to his horse about their future, something he had never done before. "You know, Thunder," Mike said as he brushed the horse's mane, "we've had quite an adventure together, haven't we? 2 years of missions, of keeping each other safe, of being the best team this army has ever seen." Thunder turned his head to look at Mike, his intelligent eyes seeming to understand every word. "Dr. Collins thinks maybe we should start thinking about what comes next for you. Maybe it's time to consider retirement. You've earned it, boy. You've served with more honor and courage than most humans I know." Thunder nickered softly and nudged Mike's shoulder. It was a gentle gesture, full of affection and trust. Mike wrapped his arms around Thunder's neck, breathing in the familiar scent of his partner's coat. Word of Thunder's condition spread quietly through the base. Other soldiers who had served with them came by to visit the famous horse. Corporal Davis, who had witnessed their first training sessions back home, brought Thunder a bag of his favorite apples. "This horse saved my life at least 3 times," Davis told Mike. "Whatever he needs now, you let me know." Private Rodriguez, who had been part of the mountain rescue mission, stopped by with fresh carrots. "Thunder's a hero," he said simply. "Heroes deserve the best." Mike realized that Thunder had touched the lives of everyone at the base.
Oh.
He wasn't just Mike's partner. He had become a symbol of courage and reliability for all the soldiers who served there. As the weeks passed, Mike began researching retirement options for military horses. He learned about programs that placed retired military animals with families who could provide them with comfortable, peaceful lives. The thought of saying goodbye to Thunder was heartbreaking, but Mike knew that his partner deserved to spend his remaining years in comfort, not facing the dangers of combat missions. Thunder continued to work, though at a reduced pace. He still had good days when his old energy and enthusiasm shone through. On those days, Mike almost forgot about the test results and the difficult decisions that lay ahead. But the reality was always there, a constant reminder that their incredible partnership was entering its final chapter. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning in early spring. Mike had been expecting it, but seeing the official envelope still made his hand shake slightly as he opened it. The Department of Defense had approved Thunder's retirement, effective. In 6 weeks, Mike found Thunder in his usual spot in the corral, standing in the morning sunshine with his eyes half closed, looking peaceful and content. When Thunder heard Mike's footsteps, he opened his eyes and walked over to greet his partner with a gentle nudge to the chest. "Hey there, old boy," Mike said, his voice catching slightly. "I've got some news." Over the past month, Mike had been in contact with a retirement facility for military horses located in Virginia. Green Meadows Ranch specialized in caring for retired military and police horses, providing them with spacious pastures, excellent veterinary care, and the peaceful life they had earned through their service. The ranch director, Mrs. Patricia Williams, had sent photos and videos of the facility. Rolling green hills stretched as far as the eye could see, with sturdy barns and comfortable stalls for when the horses needed shelter. Other retired military horses grazed contentedly in the pastures, their days of service behind them as they enjoyed well-deserved rest. Mike had spoken with Mrs. Williams several times on the phone. She had a warm voice and clearly loved the horses. In her care, she assured Mike that Thunder would have everything he needed and would be able to live out his days in comfort and dignity. "We have several other horses from Afghanistan and Iraq," she had told Mike during their last conversation. "They seem to find comfort in each other's company. They understand what they've been through in a way that civilian horses don't."
Ow.
Hardest part was that Mike's deployment wasn't over. He still had 8 months left in Afghanistan, which meant he couldn't accompany Thunder to his new home. He would have to say goodbye here at the base where they had shared so many adventures together. Mike spent the next few weeks making sure Thunder was ready for the transition. He worked with Dr. Collins to compile all of Thunder's medical records and created a detailed care plan for the ranch staff. He wanted to make sure Thunder's new caretakers understood his personality, his preferences, and his needs. "He loves to have his forehead scratched," Mike told Dr. Collins as they prepared Thunder's file, "and he gets jealous of other horses. Get attention when he's around. He's used to being the center of attention. Mike also wrote a long letter to Mrs. Williams, describing Thunder's personality and habits in detail. He wanted her to know about Thunder's playful side, how he loved to steal hats, and how he would gently mouth Mike's sleeve when he wanted attention. He wrote about Thunder's incredible courage and intelligence, and how the horse had saved countless lives during their service together. The other soldiers at the base organized a farewell ceremony for Thunder. It wasn't an official military event, just a group of grateful men and women who wanted to honor a horse that had meant so much to all of them. They gathered in the main corral on Thunder's last evening at the base. Someone had made a banner that read, "Thank you, Thunder," in bold red letters. Private Rodriguez had somehow managed to find a large carrot cake, which Thunder enjoyed immensely while the soldiers shared stories about their experiences with him. "I remember the time Thunder detected that hidden explosives cache," said Sergeant Williams. "We would have walked right into it if not for him." "What about when he carried Corporal Martinez 15 miles with a broken leg?" added Private Johnson. "Never complained once, just kept going until he got help." As the stories continued, Mike realized that Thunder's legacy would live on in the hearts and memories of everyone who had served with him. The horse had touched so many lives and had made a difference in ways that would never be fully measured. That night, Mike spent several hours in Thunder's stall, just sitting quietly with his partner. Thunder seemed to sense that something significant was happening. He was more affectionate than usual, resting his head on Mike's shoulder and breathing softly into his ear. "You've been the best partner a soldier could ask for," Mike whispered. "I hope you know how much you mean to all of us." Thunder nickered quietly, as if he understood every word. In the morning, the transport would arrive to take him to his new life. But for now, they had these precious final hours together. The transport trailer arrived at dawn, just as the sun was painting the mountains in shades of gold and pink. Mike had been awake for hours, unable to sleep on this final night with Thunder. He had groomed his partner one last time, making sure Thunder looked his best for the journey to his new home. Thunder seemed unusually calm as Mike led him from the stable. His steps were measured and dignified, as if he understood the significance of this moment. Other soldiers had gathered despite the early hour, wanting to see Thunder off with the respect and honor he deserved. The transport driver was a gentle man named Tom who had been moving retired military horses for over 20 years. He took time to meet Thunder properly, allowing the horse to smell his hands and get comfortable with his presence. "He's a beautiful animal," Tom said, admiring Thunder's proud bearing. "Mrs. Williams is going to love him. She has a special place in her heart for the war horses." Mike had packed a care package for Thunder's journey, his favorite treats. A soft blanket that smelled like their stable, and his regular grooming brushes. He also included the letter he had written to Mrs. Williams, along with photos of Thunder throughout their service together as Tom prepared the trailer. Oh, Mike spent these last precious minutes with Thunder. He ran his hands along the horse's strong neck, memorizing the feel of his coat, the warmth of his skin, the steady rhythm of his breathing. "You're going to love Virginia," Mike told him, his voice thick with emotion. "Green grass, rolling hills, other horses to keep you company. No more missions, no more danger. Just peaceful days in the sunshine." Thunder looked at Mike with those intelligent dark eyes that had seen so much, had trusted so completely. The horse stepped closer and rested his forehead against Mike's chest, a gesture that had become their special way of connecting. Dr. Collins approached with Thunder's health certificate and medications for the journey. "I've given Tom detailed instructions for Thunder's care," she said. "He'll be comfortable during the trip." The moment Mike had been dreading finally arrived. Tom lowered the ramp of the trailer and waited patiently as Mike led Thunder toward it. The horse had loaded into trailers hundreds of times during their service, but this time felt different. Thunder hesitated at the base of the ramp, turning his head to look back at Mike. It was as if he understood that this goodbye was permanent, that they wouldn't be reunited after this journey like they had been so many times before. "It's okay, boy," Mike whispered, his voice breaking. "This is the right thing. You've earned your retirement. You've earned your peace." Oh. Thunder took a deep breath and walked up the ramp with the same courage he had shown on every mission they had shared. Once inside the trailer, he turned around To face Mike through the small window, Mike reached through the opening to touch Thunder's nose one last time. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for everything, for keeping me safe, for being my partner, for being my friend. I'll never forget you." Thunder nickered softly, a sound that seemed to carry all the love and loyalty of their years together. Then, Tom gently closed the trailer door. It was over, as the transport truck pulled away from the base. Mike stood perfectly still, watching until it disappeared from sight. The other soldiers gathered around him, offering words of comfort and support, but Mike barely heard them. A part of his heart was leaving with that truck, heading toward a peaceful pasture where a brave horse would finally get the rest he had earned 3 days later. Mike received a call from Mrs. Williams. Thunder had arrived safely and was already settling into his new home. She described how he had walked into his pasture with his head held high, surveying his new kingdom with approval. "He's made friends with an old cavalry horse named Duke," she reported. "They've been grazing together since yesterday." Thunder seems to understand that he's safe now, that his work is done. Months later, when Mike finally returned home from Afghanistan, his first stop was Green Meadows Ranch. He found Thunder in a sunny pasture, his coat gleaming with health, his eyes bright and peaceful. When Thunder saw Mike approaching the fence, he cantered over with more energy than Mike had seen in months. They spent the afternoon together, walking through the pasture, Mike telling Thunder about the rest of his deployment, and Thunder listening with the same attention he had always given. When it was time to leave, Thunder walked Mike back to the fence line and watched as his old partner drove away. Mike visited Thunder regularly after that, watching him enjoy his well-deserved retirement. Thunder lived for 5 more happy years at Green Meadows Ranch, surrounded by other retired heroes and cared for by people who understood his value. When Thunder finally passed away peacefully in his sleep, Mike was there, holding his head, whispering words of love and gratitude. The horse who had served with such courage and devotion had earned his final rest, leaving behind a legacy of bravery, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond with the soldier who had loved him.